5 years of my life wasted on you, and this is the thanks I get. $40,000 is actually a bargain. Marcus slammed the manila folder on the mediation table, his face twisted with the same disgust he'd worn every day since Dad's funeral. The itemized bill inside detailed everything from breakfast preparation to emotional support surcharges. Each line item a reminder of how he turned grief into a business model. But when Mom's lawyer reached for an old cassette player and said, "Before we discuss payment, let's hear what your father really wanted," I knew the brother I'd once idolized was about to lose everything. The mediation room fell silent except for the mechanical click of the play button. We were in a sterile conference room on the 15th floor of Hartman and Associates, the kind of place where families came to divide assets and destroy relationships with legal precision. Marcus sat across from me, his attorney Bradley Stills beside him, both wearing matching expressions of smug certainty. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said, straightening his expensive tie, the one he'd bought with Dad's money, no doubt. "We don't need to listen to." "Actually, you do." Eleanor Hartman, Mom's estate lawyer, had the kind of presence that made corporate sharks nervous. She'd been Mom's best friend since college, which is why she'd agreed to handle this mess personally. "This recording was made by your father 2 weeks before his death. Your mother kept it in her safety deposit box with specific instructions. Mom had been gone for 3 months now. Cancer, like Dad, though hers had taken longer, given us more time to say goodbye. She'd spent her final weeks making sure everything was in order, though she'd never mentioned anything about a recording." Eleanor pressed play. Dad's voice filled the room, weak but unmistakable. "This is Thomas Morrison, being of sound mind, mostly, and tired body. Recording this on March 15, 2019. If you're listening to this, it means I'm gone, and probably causing problems from beyond the grave." I felt tears sting my eyes. Classic Dad, making jokes even while dying. "I need to set something straight about my will and my children. Marcus, my son, I'm leaving you $200,000 from my life insurance policy. But, and this is important, this money comes with a condition." Marcus leaned forward, his knuckles white as he gripped the table edge. "You only get this money if you take care of your sister, Lily. And by take care, I mean actually care for her, not just exist in the same house. Be the big brother she needs. Help her through school, through grief, through life. If Eleanor is playing this recording, it means you've forgotten what I asked. And that breaks my heart more than this cancer ever could." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus's attorney started rifling through papers, his confident expression crumbling. Dad's voice continued. "Lily, sweetheart, if you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm not there to protect you. I'm sorry if Marcus has let money corrupt what should be love. The $200,000 was never meant to be his payment, it was meant to ensure you be cared for while using my remaining assets." "This is," Marcus started. "Shh," Eleanor commanded, turning up the volume. "I've also established a separate trust for Lily's education and living expenses, managed by Eleanor Hartman. Marcus doesn't know about this. I wanted to see if he'd care for his sister out of love or greed. If he's demanding payment for being a brother, then he's failed the test and the $200,000 reverts to Lily's trust." The recording clicked off. Marcus's face had gone from red to white to a sort of sickly green. His attorney whispered urgently in his ear, but Marcus shoved him away. "That's not. Mom knew about this." Eleanor nodded. She helped plan it. She knew exactly what kind of man you'd become, Marcus. "The question is, what kind of man are you now?" I found my voice for the first time since entering the room. "You told me every day that I was a burden. That taking me in after Dad died was ruining your life. You charged me rent at 15. You made me sign IOUs for groceries. You needed to learn responsibility. I was 2 when Dad died." The words exploded out of me. 12 years old, and you handed me a bill for my own birthday cake. The memories flooded back, each one more painful than the last. Marcus, 10 years older than me, had been 22 when Dad passed. Fresh out of college, angry at the world, and suddenly stuck with a grieving preteen sister. "Let's review this itemized bill," Eleanor said, putting on reading glasses. "Breakfast preparation, $5 per meal, times 5 years. That's $9,125. Interesting, considering Lily made her own breakfast from age 13 on. She still ate the food I bought." with the trust fund money that was automatically deposited into your account for her care, Eleanor interrupted. Oh, here's my favorite. Emotional support surcharge. $50 per crying session. You charged your grieving sister for crying about your dead parents. Marcus's attorney finally spoke up. This is emotional manipulation. That recording could be fabricated. Eleanor smiled like a shark. Would you like to see the video version? Thomas was thorough. He also had 3 witnesses, including his oncologist. I pulled out my own folder, my hands shaking. You want to talk about what you did for me, Marcus? Let me show you what I documented. I spread photos across the table. This is my bedroom in your house. A mattress on the floor in the unfinished basement. No heat in winter, no AC in summer. You told people I chose to live down there. You were impossible to live with. This is the lock you put on the refrigerator. I had to ask permission to eat. This is the schedule you made me follow. Up at 5 a.m. to clean before school. Home by 3:30 to start dinner. Homework only after all chores were done. Structure is important. This is the bill you gave me for missing curfew by 10 minutes because the bus was late. $25. I was 14 and working illegally at a diner to pay you rent. This is the contract you made me sign promising to pay you back for every expense once I turned 18. Eleanor picked up one of the photos. Is this a padlock on her bedroom door? From the outside, I clarified. He locked me in at night, said it was for my own safety. She was sneaking out. To the library. I was sneaking out to study because you turned off the power to the basement after 9 p.m. to save money. The room erupted. Marcus shouting denials, his attorney demanding to see evidence, Eleanor calmly producing document after document. Through it all, I sat quietly, remembering how Marcus had been before Dad got sick. How he taught me to ride a bike, helped with homework, snuck me extra dessert when Mom wasn't looking. How grief had twisted him into someone unrecognizable. Someone who saw his little sister not as family, but as a financial burden to be managed and minimized. Enough? Eleanor's voice cut through the chaos. Marcus, sit down. Mr. Stills, control your client or I'll have security escort you out. When order was restored, Eleanor continued. I have here copies of every deposit made into Marcus's account from Lily's trust. $3,000 monthly for 5 years. That's $180,000 total. Meant for her living expenses, education, and care. Marcus, can you account for how this money was spent? Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I also have Lily's bank records showing she worked multiple jobs throughout high school to pay the rent you charged her. I have statements from teachers who provided her with food because she came to school hungry. I have medical records showing she was treated for malnutrition and exhaustion at 17. But most damning, Eleanor pulled out a final document. I have this. A petition for emancipation Lily filed at 16, which was denied because the judge believed keeping siblings together was more important than the minor disagreements you convinced him were happening. I was trying to teach her. You were stealing from her, Eleanor said flatly. The trust money, the insurance payouts, the Social Security survivor benefits, all meant for Lily's care. You took it all and then charged her for the privilege of surviving. I finally looked directly at Marcus, seeing him clearly for the first time in years. He looked older, grayer, with deep lines around his mouth from constant frowning. The golden boy who'd gone to college on our parents' hopes and dreams, only to return as a stranger. Do you remember, I said quietly, the day after Dad's funeral? You found me in his workshop, crying. You held me and promised you'd take care of me. You said we were all each other had left. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, shame maybe, or just the memory of who we used to be. Then the bills started. First, you said I needed to contribute to groceries, then utilities, then rent. By the time I was 13, you turned me into a tenant instead of a sister. Every hug had a price. Every ride to school went on my tab. You charged me for the gas to take me to Mom's grave. I had expenses. You had a fully paid house from Mom and Dad's estate. You had their cars, their savings, my trust fund, and the $200,000 Dad left you. You had everything, Marcus. Everything except compassion. Eleanor cleared her throat. Given the evidence presented, it's clear that Marcus Morrison has not only failed to meet the conditions of his father's bequest, but has actively defrauded his sister of approximately $180,000 in trust funds. plus additional damages for emotional abuse and neglect. This is insane. Bradley still stood up. We'll fight this in court. Please do, Eleanor smiled. I'm sure a judge would love to see how a 22-year-old man systematically abused his orphan 12-year-old sister for profit. The media would have a field day. Marcus slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. I was so angry. Dad was gone, Mom was dying, and suddenly I had this kid to take care of. I wasn't ready to be a parent. You weren't supposed to be my parent, I said. You were supposed to be my brother. The silence stretched between us, 5 years of resentment and receipts and lost love filling the space. What happens now? Marcus asked Eleanor. Now, you have a choice. Option 1. We go to court. Lily sues for the stolen trust funds, emotional damages, and fraud. You lose the $200,000 from your father, face potential criminal charges, and definitely lose the civil case. Option 2. You sign over the $200,000 to Lily's trust, agree to a payment plan for the $180,000 you stole, and we keep this out of court. And option 3, Marcus asked desperately. Eleanor looked at me. This was my call, apparently. I thought about all the nights I'd gone to bed hungry while Marcus ate takeout upstairs. All the school events I'd missed because he wouldn't drive me. All the times I'd needed a brother and found only a landlord. But I also remembered the brother who'd taught me to tie my shoes, who'd checked for monsters under my bed, who'd once loved me before grief and greed poisoned him. Option 3, I said slowly, is you finally act like my brother. You sign over the money, not because you have to, but because it's right. You stop seeing me as a bill and start seeing me as family. You get therapy to deal with whatever turned you into this. And maybe we find our way back to being siblings. Marcus looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Lily, I'm not finished, I cut him off. I don't need your money, Marcus. I got a full scholarship to college despite everything. I'm graduating next year, debt-free because I learned how to survive on nothing. But I need you to acknowledge what you did. No excuses, no justifications. Just truth. Marcus's hands shook as he reached for the glass of water in front of him. I turned you into a cash machine. I was supposed to protect you, and instead, I charged you for protection. I made you pay for being orphaned. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was a start. Mr. Morrison, Eleanor said gently, what's your decision? Marcus looked at his attorney, then at me, then at the photo of my basement bedroom still lying on the table. I'll sign it all over. The $200,000, and I'll repay what I took. It'll take time, but I don't want you homeless, I interrupted. Despite everything, I don't want that. I have a job, he said quietly. A good one. I can afford to make this right financially. I just don't know if I can make the rest right. That's not today's problem, Eleanor said, producing documents. Today, we fix the financial fraud. The rest is up to you too. As Marcus signed paper after paper, his attorney looking increasingly uncomfortable, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not forgiveness. That would take much longer, if it ever came, but pity for the brother who'd let grief and greed eat him alive. Lily, Marcus said as he signed the last document, for what it's worth, Dad would be ashamed of me. Yeah, I agreed, he would be. But he'd be proud of you. I thought about that as we wrapped up the mediation. Dad's recording had revealed his test, but I wondered if he'd known how badly Marcus would fail it. Or maybe he'd hoped the money would be enough motivation for Marcus to actually care for me. Instead, it had been just enough rope for Marcus to hang himself with. As we left the conference room, Eleanor pulled me aside. You know you could have destroyed him completely. What would be the point? I asked. He already destroyed himself. He had a sister who would have loved him forever, and he traded her for money he already had. The recording, Eleanor said quietly, there was more to it. Your dad talked about how proud he was of both of you, how he hoped you'd take care of each other. Your mom made me promise to only play what was necessary. Maybe someday Marcus can hear the rest, I said, when he's ready to hear about love instead of money. Outside the building, Marcus waited by the elevator. Lily, I know I have no right to ask, but could we maybe get coffee sometime? Not to talk about money or the past, just coffee. I looked at him, really looked at him. He seemed smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of his choices. The big brother at hero worship was gone, replaced by the stranger who'd itemized love and put a price tag on family. Ask me again in a year, I said finally. After you've started therapy, after you've made some payments, after you've figured out who you are when you're not trying to profit off your sister's grief. He nodded, understanding more than he probably had in 5 years. Fair enough. As the elevator doors closed between us, I realized something. Marcus had tried to charge me $40,000 for being my brother, but the real cost had been so much higher. He'd lost his sister, his self-respect, and any chance at the family Dad had hoped we'd build together. I walked out into the afternoon sun, my phone buzzing with texts from friends asking how it went. For the first time in 5 years, I felt free. Not from the financial burden. I'd been carrying that all along. But from the weight of wondering why my brother had stopped loving me. He hadn't stopped. He just put a price on it and learned too late that love isn't something you can invoice. The $200,000 would help with law school. The trust fund repayments would secure my future. But the recording of Dad's voice, hoping his children would take care of each other. That was worth more than all the money Marcus had tried to steal. And somewhere in the city, my brother was learning the cost of that lesson. $40,000 demanded, $200,000 lost, and a sister who might have loved him for free.